Welcome back to another episode of Vaporwave MTG. I'm your host Jacob, and this is going to be the glory version of Be'lakor, which is essentially CEDH. And I know that this commander isn't necessarily, the first thing that comes to mind when you think about CEDH, but it's still fun to at least try it, see what the deck looks like, and hopefully inspire some people to brew it and see what they come up with as well. You're in Grixis, you have a really strong color combination for CEDH. So again, it's a Demon Noble, it's a 6/5, it's got flying. When there's a battlefield, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of demons you control. And when another demon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equals power to any target. So instead of doing more of the demon tribal type stuff that we've done in the battle and the skirmish version from the previous videos, we're gonna look at Be'lakor as more of an outlet, a win condition in and of itself, than an actual, kind of like a slower draw type of engine. We do have some cards in the deck that can generate value with Be'lakor, stuff like Displacer Kitten and the Deadeye, as well as we are still on the Ghostly Flicker lines if we really need to. So we do have some synergy still with Be'lakor, but we're gonna approach it from more of a, how do we use this card to win, as opposed to how do we just use it to have, fun demon type synergies. So let's go ahead and get into it. We've got some really nice staples here that we've added to the deck. Darkside Extortionist, which can go infinite with the Deadeye. Since the Deadeye was already going to be part of the game plan anyway, it's just nice to throw this in. We're going to be abusing Darkside pretty heavily in this deck. We've got the Magda plus Darkside combo with the Cloudstone Curio. We can also use Baron Darkside or Baron Master Wizard with the Darkside. So as long as you are making a treasure count of, I believe it's 6, because you have to pay 2 and sacrifice a treasure. So that's 3 treasures to return Darkside to your hand, which then you need 2 more treasures to actually cast your Darkside. So as long as you are netting, as long as you get 6 treasures off of your Darkside, you will be able to make infinite mana, and from there you can cast your Be'lakor, and hopefully it's almost like a mini Adnaz where you're just like paying, or more like a Necropotence at that point actually, where you're paying a life and actually just straight up drawing a card, because you're going to just bounce Be'lakor with infinite mana, cast Be'lakor, do it over and over and over again, and from that point hopefully you either find a different demon like Vargoth or Vilis, or even the Automaton, or you can find a tutor that will let you, obviously tutor for one of your other demons, and from there you can just win the game. We do have some early game demons like Immersturm Raider, which lets us kind of filter a card early game. It's not amazing, but it's still pretty cheap. We've got the Vargoth, which can let us tutor a bunch of times depending on how grindy the game is going. Since we are doing a little bit of a reanimator type strategy, we've got Jin-Gitaxias and the Vilis, which help us control the board and people's hands. If you notice, we do not have that Razakath in the deck anymore, and that's because we don't have a ton of creatures in the deck to sacrifice to Razakath. So to avoid that awkwardness, I've decided to forego the Razakath. If you really want to throw Razakath in, I think you can, and it would probably be just fine. Probably wouldn't be the big deal. We've still got this Dualcaster Mage, since we are going to still be on the Ghostly Flicker combo. We're also going to add Twin Flame, so we don't need as many pieces to actually do that combo. So instead of needing Dualcaster plus your commander plus another demon on board, we can just Dualcaster, cast to our Twin Flame targeting something, and then response, cast Dualcaster Mage, make infinite Dualcaster Mages. They'll have haste, and then we can swing in at our opponents. Some other really great staple type cards, Ragavan, Ledger Shredder can help us draw cards, also put cards in the bin, like our Jin-Gitaxias and Vilis if they happen to be in our hand, and from there we can reanimate them. And an Oppo Agent, because who doesn't like getting their deck stolen when they're tutoring? Probably no one, but it feels good to do it when someone else is tutoring. Moving on to our sorceries, just some extra tutor power. We've still got the Demonic Tutor, Gamble, Grim Tutor, Imperial Seal. We've got the Peer into the Abyss. We've also got the Reanimate still. And then we've got this Toxic Deluge, which It's just going to be fantastic for wiping the board. The meta is pretty creature heavy, so it's pretty important to have some kind of way to mass deal with creatures, whether it be a Winota or a Jetmir or a Nagila type of deck. Being able to alleviate the pressure and the creature-based stacks pieces that are kind of plaguing the format right now can be really good. So yeah, I highly recommend some kind of board wipe in that regard. Moving on to our instance, we have made some really great upgrades here, added some fast rituals like Cabal Ritual, Dark Ritual, help us power out some of our cards a little bit faster, added some really efficient removal and interaction, stuff like Force of Negation, Force of Will, March of Swirling Mist is another way we can deal with creatures on board. Then we've also got the Tainted Pact and the Demonic Consultation, since we are on the Thassa's Oracle. Just a really easy include since we are in those Grixis colors. Mindbreak Trap is really strong right now. We do see, especially against storm type of decks, since you can just exile the spell, gets around stuff like Veil of Summer, which is actually really strong, and Veil of Autumn, that type of stuff. And this Brain Freeze, which we can use to combo with Underworld Breach. Moving on to our artifacts. Bolas' Citadel plus Top plus the Aetherflux Reservoir. In those kind of long grindier games, Aetherflux Reservoir can be pretty decent at actually kind of getting your life total back up a little bit. But it's also just a combo piece once you assemble Bolas plus the Sensei's Top. Added a bunch of fast mana. We've removed the Signets. The Signets can be a little bit awkward in CEDH since they do require that you have another mana open in order to utilize that artifact. Since a lot of our stuff is like 1 mana, really cheap, being able to hold up individual rocks is really important. So we've cut the Signets in favor of Talismans and some other fast mana. But other than that, pretty straightforward upgrades. We've got the Lion's Eye Diamond and the Lotus Petal, which can both potentially go create a combo with Brain Freeze and the Underworld Breach, and a Wishclaw Talisman, which can do some pretty funny shenanigans, especially with the Displacer Kitten. Moving on to our enchantments, we've got our reanimation spells. We've also added the Dance of the Dead for a little bit of extra redundancy, Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study for the card draw, and again we've got that Underworld Breach, which lets us combo off. So if we have an LED and a Brain Freeze, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to Brain Freeze targeting ourselves, and then from there we can use the cards that are in our graveyard to escape our Lion's Eye Diamond, and from there we can pay 3 with the Lion's Eye, Brain Freeze ourselves again. The storm count is going to keep going higher and higher and higher until eventually you can mill out your opponents, or you can just assemble one of your own combos, whether it be like Dual Caster plus Twin Flame or Top plus Bolas' Citadel. And finally, we've got this Black Market Connections, which is actually going to be really sweet in this deck, since you can use it to make a treasure, or you can draw a card, or you can make a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. So it is all creature types. There'll be an extra demon that we can use to get a bunch of cards off of our Be'lakor, so maybe you drop this down early, and in addition to making the treasures and the shapeshifters, you get to make the extra demons. You draw a little bit of extra cards off of your Be'lakor, or you can use it as removal. If you already have Be'lakor out, you can start making the 3/3 changelings and start zapping things that are on the board that you want to get rid of. So really cool interaction here with the Black Market Connection. I think it's super sweet in this deck, so we've started in. Moving on to our lands, definitely made some really great upgrades from our battle version. Essentially all of our lands are entering the battlefield untapped at this point, and we do have the Tainted Pact mana base, meaning that none of our lands are the same. We only have 1 island, we have 1 swamp. I like to have at least 1 basic in the deck, whether it's like a Swords to Plowshare, a Path to Exile, or a Winds of Abandon, or an Assassin's Trophy. Having that basic that you can grab is always really great. Thanks for checking out this episode of Opal Wave MTG. Again, I'm your host Jacob, and until next time.